Hello, we're glad to have you join us. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. Exports trade is generally considered as a veritable tool for sustainable economic growth. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy, which is tied to different indices. But looking at the nation's export trade volume in the wake of overdependence on crude oil export, there are challenges that has consistently plagued the nation's non-oil sector, both the demand and the supply. Figures from the Nigerian Export Promotion Council reveals that the value of Nigeria's non-oil export revenue recorded a marginal decrease to $4.5 billion. That was in 2023. Now, the drop represents a 6.3% decline from the $4.8 billion revenue accrued to government coffers. That was in 2022, and $500 million less than the $5 billion target set by the Council for the year. Well, interestingly, there has been consistent efforts by the federal government to improve the nation's non-oil exports and to set the nation in the right trajectory. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council recently launched the World Trade Organization Standards and Development Facility for Sesame Seed and Cowpea, which is aimed at improving Nigeria's sanitary and phytosanitary compliance and reduce exports rejects to the barest. This initiative is largely to change the narrative for Nigeria because food exports, including sesame and cowpea, have often faced rejection due to different reasons. Now, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council coordinates and harmonizes export development and promotion of activities in the country. But how then will this laudable initiative boost non-oil exports for Nigeria? Our focus on Platform is beating the odds in trade standards, and our guest is On Nta. She's the Executive Director and CEO, Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am, on Platform.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. And just before we bring in our panelists, we'll just take you through a bit of her profile. On Nta is the former and pioneer Managing Director of Signature Bank, PLC, one of the newly licensed commercial banks in Nigeria, and she has also served as former Deputy MD for FinTech. She was Deputy Managing Director of Funds and Electronic Transfer Solutions Limited, that's the FinTech, until September 2022, where she served as an independent non-executive director at the FMDQ Exchange. She has also served as General Manager, Zenith Bank PLC, where she was responsible for the strategic management of multiple divisions cutting across treasury and financial services, correspondent banking, business development, e-business, human resources, and human capital management, among others. She served as Group Treasurer at Zenith Bank for more than 12 years and still counting, with more than 25 years in the banking experience. Nonye has expertise and deep understanding of virtually all areas of core banking, with emphasis on international and domestic operations, payments, general management, business development, risk management, customer satisfaction. We can go on and on, but let's leave it there. Thank you for this profile. Actually, I must say it's quite impressive.
Thank you very much.
All right, and this is where we bring in our panelists, and we have one of our business correspondent here at NTA, Comfort. Amadu Comfort, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you join us on the platform.
Let's talk business now.
Of course, let's talk business.
Always.
All right, so well, first of all, Madam Nonye, I have to congratulate the council for the feats just recorded. That's the WTO Standards and Trade Development Facility for Sesame and Cowpea. Great initiative. The world it just shows that Nigeria is beginning to do something right, and we're being put on the map, and the world recognizes that, and which is one good step to go. But you came on board, with a renewed vigor. You want to, push for non-oil export, which is what the council, is really pushing hard for. But you came with a different, aspects to that angle. So what is, what is it you met on board, when you came on board?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good question. When I came in, there are a lot of initiatives the council had done so much, you know, and what I'm trying to do is to build on what has been done before, and also to introduce some new things. So we can't just change everything, but they've done a lot, but there's still a lot to be done. And what I came in, I found out that Nigeria is gifted with enormous resources, so much resources.
We are blessed.
If you start counting, we have almost up to 1,000 agricultural products, including derivatives. And find out that we're looking at how do we develop these products, these non-oil products. And I said, we can't face 1,000 products at a time. So what we did over the past few months is to selectively pick some few products based on the level of production in Nigeria and the aggregate demand in the global market. And then we give it our intensity and focus, so that we're able within the next, we've given ourselves within the next 12 months to 18 months, we want to see these products, the volume and the value of the export of these non-oil products double. And that's why we have that mantra we started a mantra we call operations double your exports. So if you come to the council, you hear people say operation double. So that's the mantra. Under that mantra, we now layer different initiatives. Some were already in existence, but some we introduced newly. But let me start with the ones we introduced newly.
Okay.
And then I also go to the ones that they had before.
We'll break down everything. We'll have time to break it down. But just give us a summary of the ones.
Okay, so we have what we call the export 35 redefined. And I could speak a little bit, I'll give you the, so we picked 20 top products based on this criteria I told you. Then we look at 10 exporters, 10 major exporters for each of these products. Then we looked at 5 markets for each of these products. That's how we came up with 35. So I pick a cashew, for instance, and I look at cashew is one of the top products, agricultural products of Nigeria. I look at the 10 exporters, 10 major exporters. What do we need to do to enhance their capacity in terms of removing the logistics issues and make it easy for them to export? I'm going to speak to those things later. Then we now look along the value chain and see the smaller players. How do we gather them together so that we can scale up easily? And that's when I'm going to talk about aggregation center.
We'll get to the aggregation part. I see Comfort itching to pick up with a follow-up question, so go ahead, Comfort.
Okay, so a whole lot has been done to promote Nigerian products, just like Ruth said. But we would like to know which of the products is actually making a headway and to what market?
In Nigeria?
Outside the country.
Okay, we have a lot of
it's all about export.
Well, we have so many products, so I can't even say what. We talk about cocoa, we talk about cashew, ginger, hibiscus, soya beans. There are a lot. I'm even talking about agricultural products. We've not looked at solid minerals, which is a discussion of another day. Then services. So let me pick, for instance, the one that is dear to my heart is hibiscus. In recent times, they banned Nigeria from exporting hibiscus. But in collaboration with Mexico and setting up some fumigation centers, we found out that we've started exporting to Mexico, and the volume in the last few months has increased. So hibiscus is there, cashew is there, cocoa, there are quite a lot. And these are demanded in various countries, from Europe to Asia to even Africa. So we have good products, we have great opportunity in Nigeria.
And you talked about 1,000 agricultural produce. Now that's a lot. And it seems that you're beginning to, streamline the process. And you just talked about Nigeria's produce, the hibiscus, being rejected. Now that is not only for that produce. We have a lot of, export items that are always being rejected. That has been the challenge. Now, coming on board for you, how do you intend to look at those aspects of poor quality you know, inappropriate documentation and processing, you know, the whole packaging and labeling that is not properly done because you're selling a market.
Yeah, thank you. That actually speaks to one issue that is on our front burner in the council. If you look at rejects, what are the major reasons that they reject? Either you spoke about it, poor standards. They are not meeting up with international standards and quality. Yeah. They are not meeting up with packaging. You know, you have instances where in the past you have exporters, even for groundnut, they put in bottles. In bottles, there's no way it can align with global standard. Nobody's going to buy it. Yes. And then sometimes they put it in carton, and that's not also doesn't align. So what we're trying to, that's on that. Then you also have certification. So every country requires some level of certification on how if you're going to import, if you're going to export to those countries. And then there's issue of perception. You know, sometimes once they say things come from Nigeria, it's
that's
like
a very critical
yes. And some of our products, they actually shift them through some West African countries, and it's labeled that is coming from those countries. Meanwhile, these are products from Nigeria. So what we are trying to do is to address the issues of reject, and that's where the STDF 845 comes in. It's one of the major initiatives that will help us curb this reject, in the sense that it's going to improve. We're going to teach through capacity building, training, and education. We're going to teach in collaboration with ITC and WTO, who have supported us over the years. And we're going to train exporters on how to improve the use of pesticides and make them adhere to the maximum residual level. And also we'll train them. We've in the past done a lot of certification. It's expensive, but NEPC has bankrolled some of these certification for exporters. Last year alone, we bankrolled certification for over 200 exporters. You know, and certification in HACCP, ISO 2200. So we'll continue to do that. Once we have instances where some exporters, they were not exporting. They are just, you know, this normal, take these products here. But when we certify them in conjunction with some of our development partners, they started exporting. So we have some positive stories, some very good success stories to that. So in terms of rejection, again, I'll speak particularly the one that is also very close to our heart. In the last 3 weeks, we had a high-level meeting with NACO. NACO. If you look at exportation through the air, by the air, you have basically two gateways, NACO and SACO. So we picked NACO, and we'll soon sign an MOU with them. If you go to NACO shed, you see vegetables and fruits thrown away, and sometimes they force themselves to send it maybe to Europe, and they are rejected, having bad image for Nigeria. So we're working with...
And it rubs off on the rest.
Yeah, so once you see that person, oh, no, it's from Nigeria, it's rejected. So we are trying to take hold of the gateways for the air. So if we take hold of the gateways and make sure that whatever leaves Nigeria through the air is certified and is in good quality, then we're able to reduce that reject. Then I was speaking to perception. We are not as bad as they make us
image, right?
So we are doing a lot of advocacy with embassies, with development partners, to let them know that these are some of the things we are doing. In fact, sometimes when you engage them, you tell them some of the things that we are doing in Nigeria to ensure that we are meeting up with the standard, and they're like, wow, they didn't know. So there has to be a lot of engagement with embassies, with the development partners, and with institutions across. So that's why we would have some trade missions. Trade missions where we engage them to let them know what we are doing. So there are quite a lot we are doing in terms of reject. We've done the one for hibiscus, and that success we replicate in other products, and we're also cascading it to other countries, not just Mexico.
Okay, so let's still dwell on the issue of the gate. We're talking about at the farm gates now. We want to control the quality of our products so that it meets the requirements with regards to sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. how do we deal with the issue of traceability from where these products come from? And the fact that some persons go directly to the farmers to purchase this product and send them out. Do we have any form of control to check this? Okay.
So what we are trying to do, STDF 845 will address some of these issues. Because if you look at the activities, we already agreed that STDF will help to maintain the standard and the quality and deal with the issues of sanitary and phytosanitary conditions that we need to do. So apart from that, if you look at the activities that we've lined up under this STDF 845, there will be, first of all, identification of the issue. Okay. So we're going to go to the various locations. We're going to the farm gate where these products, I'm talking about cowpea and sesame, the farmers themselves will be trained. Farmers will be trained, the processors will be trained, the producers will be trained. So across the value chain, there will be training across the value chain, exposing them to what is obtainable in the international market, exposing them to those standards. Okay. And then there will be M&E to look at what, so it's a whole process. That's why the project is going to be for 3 years. So it's going to go from the value, and again, talking about traceability. With that, when you train the farmers, you tell them what to do. So when these goods are coming, you already know where it's coming from. And then when we talk about aggregation center, the aggregation center, because at the end of the day, we're looking at if you have adequate support to set up aggregation center for this cowpea and sesame. And when you have aggregation center, you're able to know where each product is coming, from which farm, and then M&E will help us ensure that what they were trained on, that they're actually imbibing on it. So it's a whole long stretch.
And part of what I gathered, for the STDF is also the aspect, you talked about the monitoring and evaluation, which is very important for effective implementation. Laboratory testing.
Yes.
For certification. Yes. Now, how would you ensure at every level, because we're talking Nigeria, even though it's the 6 geopolitical zones that will be the aggregation centers, ensuring compliance, total compliance of these procedures. It's very important because you don't want to compromise standards.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Another great question. Let me start by saying that when we looked at this, because no matter what we do internally, if we do not pass these products through the laboratories, we also have those rejects. So 2 months ago, we had a high-level discussion. The management of NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, had a high-level engagement in Lagos with NAFDAC.
Oh, great.
Their management team. So we looked at, we even visited the laboratories. So they took us to all the laboratories in Lagos. So they have different sections. So we've already discussed with them. They are open to our exporters. And we even went ahead to engage them that they need to reduce the cost, which they are open to doing. So we expose them to that. So they can send all the goods. They will take the samples before they are exported. Then last month, we visited the center, another laboratory center in Shagamu. We met with our top management. This is a very, very good laboratory, top of very good standard. And this laboratory was established by AfriExim, managed by Bureau Veritas. So we had discussions with them. So we're also opening all these exporters to that. In addition, we're engaging them through AfriExim to see how we can set up laboratories in at least 6 geopolitical zones, so that the people will not have to come to Lagos before they test the samples, because those are some of the challenges. So we are also looking at, as we go on, I'll tell you what we're putting in place to help break up the logistic issues. This is also one of the logistic issues. So we engage them, though it requires a little bit of funding, but we believe it will be done. By the time we set up one in the 6 geopolitical zones, then it's easy, it's closer to the farmers, it's closer to the warehouse, and we're able to make sure that they produce before, and even the value-added products, before they leave the country, they are certified and they've gone through the laboratory process.
Okay, so having these testings done from Nigeria may not be enough, because Nigerian testing might certify the products, but when it gets out there, especially with regards to health. You have Port of Health that certifies these things. So do you have any plan to work hand in hand with the port health authorities like the UK and other countries, because it would definitely still go through those checks?
Okay, yeah, very good. We you know, when I started by saying, well, our work in Nigerian Export Promotion Council also involves advocacy. So in doing the advocacy, we also identify the major players in those countries. So we get to know, when we talk about certification, also we get to know what they require. Every country have their own requirements. So it borders on, okay, I'm exporting to, say, EU. We are meeting with EU here. So we are working with them to see what they require. And it's also part of all the projects we are doing, what they require in EU. There are some rejects from EU. We're already working with them to see how we can curb it. And we work with them. Then there's also trade missions. So when we go on trade missions, we are able to meet the relevant stakeholders in those countries, get to know what they want. Then we come back working with different agencies, because it's not only about NEPC. We work with different agencies, Ministry of Agri, NQS, NAFDAC, SON, Quarantine. So we come back and we look at them and see what do we need to do. So a lot of work is going on in that regard.
So it's a whole process.
Yes.
When you're talking about ensuring sanitary, meeting specification, is a whole process from the processing zone, the office, and all that. So it's cost effective.
Yes.
And we expect MSMEs to also take advantage of this opportunity.
Yes.
How do you intend to factor them in terms of finance? Because they can't afford to cover the cost of these processing channels. Okay, so that's where that's two things. I would like to look at it from two ways.
That's where the NEPC comes in to support.
First of all, we support them in terms of, you know, why is it that they don't access finance? Let me even say.
That's the thing.
The reason, there's fund everywhere.
And the interesting thing is that I understand that every bank has an export desk that is supposed to be processing finance for MSMEs, but they rather give it to the big players.
Coming from the banking sector, the funds are there. The banks actually want to lend. Let me wear the cap of a banker. The banks actually want to lend. But the problem is, or the challenge is, that some of these exporters have not been able to have a good structure. If you're a banker, you want to lend money, you want to see your money in and out, because these are depositors' money. So I can't lend when I can't see the money coming. So most of these exporters, or some of these people that have not been able to access these funds, is that they've not structured their businesses in such a way that the business is de-risked. If you de-risk a business, the banks will run after you to fund you. That's one. Two, they don't have a good structure. I will take some typical, they don't know how to separate their capital from their profit. Some of them, you come in, somebody says, oh, I need money, just tips money and give the person, not knowing you're eating your capital. So if banks don't see how those structure, you have a good structure, you have a succession plan, you have a sustainable business, it will be difficult to access funds, not only banks, even other donors. So what we want to do in Nigerian Export Promotion Council, which is another initiative, is to train these exporters, especially at the lower end of the value chain, how to de-risk their business. It's not about the volume, it's about how you've de-risked your business. So there will be a lot of capacity building in showing them how to de-risk their businesses, so that they're even able to access funds either locally or internationally.
You know, it's very critical if you're talking enhancing capacity and they're understanding the dynamics, how the monies or the capital, you know, should be streamlined for their effective business opportunities that will come their way, obviously. Now, you mentioned logistics aspect also. Is that part of the capacity building you're doing? Because advocacy is very important, and it has to cut across the value chain. Now, these exporters, some of them are not aware. When you mentioned the funding thing, that the funds are available, I told you some will readily disagree, because access to information, they say, is power, right? Yes. No, is the advocacy rather, you know, part of that aspect? Okay, so the advocacy, like I said, two things we're going to do
is to help them, teach them how to de-risk the business. And then also, in terms of helping them build their capacity, also open them up to where those funds are. Even some banks, they have, speaking to MSME you talk about, some banks have some money earmarked for MSME, and they're not, they are not even dispersed. Even I was opportune. Yes. So they are there. So if you look at MSME, some banks have those funds, and they are cheap. But if you are not able to de-risk your business, and to the extent that the banks will lend and see the money come back, it may be difficult to access those funds. Even globally, when some of those global funds, they can't access them. So that's one. So two things we are going to do in Nigerian Export Promotion Council. First of all, is to train them to how to de-risk their business and have a good structure so that they're able to access this finance. That's number one. Two, to create awareness for them to open them up to where they can get those cheap for. Even Nexim has funds. So we're already in discussion with Nexim. And
are there criteria, Madam Noye, that, an entrepreneur needs, to be certified for these funds you're talking about? Because I've spoken with a lot of entrepreneurs, except those who have access to these opportunities. They will still tell you the bottlenecks involved. Okay.
There will naturally be there will be some requirements, and that's one. First of all, is structure from our perspective. If you structure your business to the extent that the succession plan, you're doing your tax, your books are in order, you're audited. Some don't even audit their books. If I want to learn whether I'm Nexim or whether I'm a bank, I want to see your books, because I don't sit with you. Your books, if you have an audited account, it shows that you have done this. You can see the structure. Yeah. Number two, you have to have succession plan. Yeah. Number two, we want to see your plan as to how you're growing. So those are the things NEPC is going to be doing. Okay. You understand? Moving forward. That's one other initiative. We're going to get some experts and teach them, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you do. And remember, some people think it's about big, it's not about not the size. There are some big companies that banks cannot lend to. There are some very small companies banks can lend to. Is that structure? And then want to see succession plan.
Oh, great.
Yes. If something happens, the key man risk. So if something happens, God forbid, is the business sustainable? So sustainability comes in.
I agree with you, because we have situations where entrepreneurs will probably purchase products, maybe say at 1 million, then they sell and use the same 1 million to go back into the market to buy. So they feel like they're operating at loss. That's because the business is not structured, and they are not separating their interests or even their capital.
Yeah, that's correct. That's very correct.
Okay, now let's also look at the aspect when you started your mission for the NEPC. You were really pushing for digital marketing now to boost, trade exports, especially for exporters. How would the council go about that? Because the world is global, and we're in the digital age. So that's actually one aspect a lot of marketers should deploy, right?
Yes.
And then sorry for the fact that the STDF also captures e-commerce. Yeah. So it's part of the project.
Okay.
Okay, fantastic. Coming from a fintech, digital is the future.
Okay, can you hold that thought, Madam Noye? Just hold it there. We have to take a break.
Okay.
So let's ponder on that. While we take this break, we're back. Stay tuned.
What are we doing as a nation to first of all settle our teeming populace, especially
NTA's political package with a third eye on the nation's political scene? I'm Fisao Gufu. Welcome.
You have to be very careful giving space to people who are obviously sponsored to further the agenda of some other groups.
There's a lot of questions. A lot of questions in a closed door sessions. Some of these issues, some of the problems bedeviling of their.
In fact, between June 1st and July 17, 19-point-something billion has left the coffers of the NDDC.
I can say my constituency, they need everything because we don't have anything.
A method for digital literacy is a bot that you can use, you can interact to learn more about digital literacy.
Hello, it's our pleasure to have you join us on platform. I'm Ruth Aguwele.
What is the yardstick for measuring everybody's moral integrity? It's critical at this point in time.
How daunting has that been for the Institute in getting them abreast with all the legislative procedures?
The fact remains that one training workshop is not enough.
Good to have you there. And the conversation is beating the odds in trade standards. Madam Noye, you were just going to respond to the question I asked on digital marketing to boost trade exports for entrepreneurs. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You started with fintech.
Yeah, I said, I said coming from the fintech background, okay. I'll say digital is the future, okay. And trade is expansive.
Yes.
When you layer it on digital. So we can no longer depend on face-to-face marketing or sales. So we are also looking at how we can connect our women and even other exporters on the digital platform. And that will help them expand their business, expand their scope, reaching out to the whole world. You can sit in Nigeria and layer all your products. You can say, we have some success stories already, where you have some women exporters selling their products on Amazon. So STDF 845 is will also help us in that regard because it also covers e-commerce. So allowing the women and some other exporters to connect digitally to the whole world. That's one advantage. In NEPC, we're also looking at how we can expand our website. It's one of the things we're looking at. You layer where we have people can go into our website and see all the information, more like creating a market hub where we layer all these agricultural products, even services. Services is another thing we're looking at. So you can't sell services face to face. It has to be layered digitally. So it's a very important thing that we're looking at. We're working with ITC in conjunction with ITC and WTO, and STDF 845 will also help us achieve a lot in that regard. Unfortunately, I was in Abu Dhabi when they launched this wide women in export in digital trade.
Very passionate
women in digital trade.
We'll talk about the women aspect.
Okay.
Comfort, go ahead.
All right. When you want to talk about export, it has to do with storage. Especially where sanitary and phytosanitary comes to play now. Where is the point of aggregation and domestic warehouse here? Because you need to store these things in a container that meets specification itself, because keeping the goods is not just, because there are certain containers that could have been used for something else that would contaminate a specific product. Say you exported soya and then you want to take out tomato or cowpea. You need to sanitize the container. So is there like an arrangement to use domestic warehouse? That's the project NEPC introduced sometime last year or so.
Okay, thank you very much. We are trying to operationalize. It's a PPP arrangement actually, because it's a very costly, let me put it that way. So we are trying to operationalize the domestic export warehouse. And to make it a one-stop shop, more like a dry port. We visited two, one in Lagos and one in Kano. That's the inland, the Dala inland dry port. So we want to operationalize it and make it a one-stop shop where exporters will bring their goods and the warehouse, they have the warehouse, you can have the aggregation center, you also have the laboratory center, laboratories, everything happens there. And then we are advocating for all the agencies to also be present in that place. So when you bring your goods, you put it in a container, you process it there, it's labeled, it's containerized and sealed. So through special trucks, it goes straight to the port, undisturbed, unlike now where they have to be opening it. And then if it's where you have the rail or the barges, it goes straight to the port. So that will reduce the logistics, not only for the smaller players, for the big players. Because if you talk to most exporters, sometimes it takes about a month. And there are so many disruptions on the road.
Especially because of the delay.
Yeah, the delay. And this leads to contract cancellation. And if there are some vegetables, they get spoiled. And so those are some of the things we want to do to operationalize the deal. We believe that's a game changer. It's going to change the narrative. It's going to reduce costs for exporters, and it's going to make ease of exportation very good for them.
I'm particularly interested in this cowpea and sesame seed, which is the rave now for the council.
I'm actually wondering why. Because it used to be shea butter, you know.
I think maybe it's because of the value. We heard from the figures you read out, $7.2 billion. That was in 2023. And there's a target of $9.43 billion for 2028. Now that's a huge prospect there if you want to look at it that way. And there are other produce. You talked about 1,000 agricultural produce.
Derivatives?
Yes.
And derivatives,
yes. So but will this initiative just launched by the WTO be replicated, to other produce? So we start picking out those ones that have been neglected for so long to look at the economic benefits also.
Yeah, fantastic. You see, a journey of 1,000 miles
begins with a step.
Starts with one step. We successfully, with ITC, in collaboration with ITC and WTO, we've successfully done shea butter. There's a model
Which
center.
was a success.
Yeah, very success. That's why they came for the second one. So there's one model center in Shaki. It's being run. It's like an aggregation center, and over 4,000 women have benefited from that. And you see, let's say some years back, you see people carry shea butter in small container. But you'll be amazed. We are fortunate to have the WTO, Dr. Ngozi, Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She came in. She was in MEPC 2021. She came in 2 days ago. She was to spend 20 minutes. She spent 2 hours. She was amazed. You see the quality of shea butter. If you see the packaging, and you will so love it. It's comparable to what you can get anywhere in the world. So that success story made them, because it has created jobs too, because it's not only about exportation. We export to get foreign exchange. We're also looking at renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of renewed hope agenda of job creation, poverty alleviation. So if you look at those areas, if you look at Ilori, we have one in Ilori which is functional. We have in Shaki. It's created jobs. It's alleviated people from poverty. So we said, let's take it on to another 2 products in this case, cowpea and sesame. And we're giving ourselves 3 years. But we don't have to wait for those 3 years. It can run concurrently. By the time we do 1 year, we can expand it to other products. So that's why I said the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. But the good thing is that ITC is supporting us. And our Honorable Minister, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anita, her push, her drive, you can't work with her, you can't sit still. You keep pushing. So we're also looking at other products, to run concurrently as we move on, maybe after 1 year. So there's a lot going on. And in the next few years, we have a lot of them.
And it's good we're seeing women at the helm of affairs taking this decision. From the minister to you, I'm heading somewhere. The She Trade Nigeria Hub. I know you're very passionate about, enhancing the capacity for women entrepreneurs, looking at support from them from all aspects. And it's good we're having a woman at the helm of affairs who understand where another woman is coming up. I'm sorry for being partial. It's the Women's Month. Let's talk about the women.
Let's talk about the women. Let me tell you, women, I always say something. Everybody that works with me, the best people I work with, if you ask me to choose, sorry for men listening, if you ask me to choose who I work with, I like to work with women because women give it
in business.
They give you their best. They are not easily distracted. The best man for the job is a woman. And if you train a woman, you train a community. In fact, you train a nation.
So tell us how the council is helping, support women, be in the export business, which I know the council is, really pushing for.
Okay, you see the she trade?
Yes.
The she trade is about women. The she is S-H-E, is all about women. So if you see anything I'm saying, I mention women. We believe that if you empower a woman, you empower a whole community and a whole nation. So we are very deliberate and intentional about grooming women to do export. In fact, in the council, we have a division we call the women division. So the MSME, and then we have women and youth. So a lot of initiatives are being targeted at women. And women are less privileged, in quote, if you put it that way. And they are coming up. Maybe when next we are having such exhibitions, you'll be proud to be a woman. What happened in the council 2 days ago was all the people that came. Women are resilient, they're passionate, they're self-driven, and they stop at nothing until they succeed.
What about those in the rural areas?
Yes, we are leveraging on 36. NEPC has operations, state offices in 36 states. So whatever is happening at the center is happening in the locations. It's unfortunate. One of the things we want to do is also to showcase what we do. Every month there's at least 1 or 2 trainings on women and all that. We have even desks. In all the 36 states, we have a desk for women to also help them come up. And they train them, capacity building in terms of good agricultural practices, how to do farming, how to gather them together. We have that going on across the 36 states of the Federation on a regular basis, leveraging on our state offices. And then they report to the center. And that's why even the one I talked about that happened on 2 days ago, we brought people from the east, from the west, and from the north. They were there.
Is the one-stop shop across the 36 states still operational? Because I think it's going to be pivotal to this drive.
Oh, yes. One-stop
shop.
One product, one state.
Yes.
Yes, it's all encompassed. That's why we say we carefully selected
I think that's OSOP or something.
OSOP, yes. We carefully selected those 20 products. So you see that maybe if you pick cocoa now, it's in 3 different states. So every state is represented. So all those one state, one product, that also is represented in our 20 product.
There's a whole lot going into pushing for Nigerian products to be on the shelf of every country and not just Nigeria.
And we will get there.
We will get there, definitely, but there's a whole lot of informal businesses going on that makes it look like Nigerian products are not getting out because of in-person export. People travel and they carry their products with them. So it's not reflecting to show. That's why we have statistics coming out and it looks like maybe the export volume is dropping.
Thank you.
So what is the NEPC doing, or are you planning to work with the relevant agencies to curb this? It cannot be stopped. I know, like Hadejai, it's a spot where things go out of the country unchecked. So how do we deal with that?
Okay, we thank you very much. If when she started, they said the volume dropped. Honestly, it didn't drop. Actually increased. But you begin to see a lot of informal trade which has not been captured. So one of the things we're doing...
That's why it's not being captured.
Yeah, so you're looking at the formal trade. The formal trade, it's there, it's increasing, it's a lot. But if you look at, even if it dropped marginally, it's increased over the years significantly. But it's not a drop, actually, because there's a lot of informal trade. We recognize that in the council. So 2 things we are doing. 1, to see how we can gather data. Because those data are there. It's informal is informal. Both in the north, in the west, and in the south. There are 3 major hubs major hubs in terms of informal trade in the north. So what we've done is to identify those and then work with these. If you talk to them, because we've engaged them, we are also going to work something out to have an MOU with them. They want to do formal trade, so we're also going to train them. So we've identified them, so we know with them. The second thing is to identify those outlets, the border markets, the motor parks, Where are they in the south? Is it Oron? Where are they in the north? Where are they
the
in
boundaries are very easy.
Yeah, so we've identified them, and we are beginning to work with them to at least first of all capture data. We've also engaged them to see what are their challenges, and they've told us their challenges. So that's where advocacy comes in, where we can see how do we remove these challenges or mitigate it or reduce it so that they are willing to come to the formal sector. So we've engaged them in, so we are working on that, we're baking it.
But something very critical is the aspect of intra-African trade.
Yes.
Now, there's a huge benefit, around that. While you're talking about the whole border aspect, Nigeria do business, you just see, we have neighboring countries we do business with, but like you said, they're not being captured because a lot of them are informal. So how would the Council leverage on the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, to boost a well-structured trading and export within the African continent? Let's even, harmonize what we have as Africans before we're thinking outside. We're not saying we shouldn't do,
Thank you very much. Charity begins at home.
Yes.
In the Council, we've dimensioned it. We have within that space 1.3 billion people. That's the largest trading bloc in the world, region. So, and there's a lot happening there, most of them informal. So the NEPC is working with the National Action Committee Group to see how we can partake of that. There are some, and you see, we're also working with Custom because Custom will also give certification for the products. So there's a lot of capacity building going on there. We're a member of that committee. We just joined. So we're working with them to let everyone know the products and then first of all get certificate of origin. Once you have that certificate of origin, remember it's quota-free, it's tariff-free. But if you don't have the certificate of origin, you will not benefit. So we are training. There's a lot of capacity building, training in that area to open them up. Then there's this guided trade initiative as well of the AFTA. So we see that as a game changer, and the opportunities are there. And I like what you said. If we look at the opportunities within African continent, if we harness the opportunity to do a lot. If we had a meeting where we are looking at, you can be sending something to Europe, and then Europe will send it to another country. So why don't we get together and make sure that within the continent, and it's expensive. When I send from Nigeria, I send it to US. US will just do some little value addition. It comes back to Nigeria, to maybe to Ghana. But when we get together, so the African AFTA is a good game changer for not only for Nigeria, for the whole nations in the continent.
Comfort, you have a very short question.
No, I want her to talk about Operation Double your exports.
I like that.
How can we double our exports? And then I know there's like a platform, NEPC Connect.
Yes.
What's the nexus?
Okay, let me start with NEPC Connect. NEPC Connect, about 3 months ago, we introduced NEPC Connect. We want to bridge the gap between the exporters and NEPC. We don't want exporters running all, I want to go and see somebody, and we want to bridge the gap. So we are having our first webinar ever on the 21st, and I expect you to join. It's going to be a webinar where we first of all introduce some of these initiatives so people will know. You talked about some exporters don't even know what is happening. They don't even know how to access funds. So we first of all open them up to what we do, the various initiatives, and tell them how they can benefit from that. Then the next webinar will be, we pick maybe certification and we deal with it. We would pick, so they don't have to come physically, but we're pushing out information. And remember I said we're looking at data collection. So we collect data. We also, through that NEPC Connect and webinar, we're going to tell them, if you're exporting this, we open you to the world. Do you know these are the information, these are the countries that need this in this form. And these are the, so that webinar, the first one is just open them up, then we'll begin to get surgical.
Okay. Madam Noye, I can feel your passion, really. And I like your doggedness. So as we round off this conversation, share with me the vision we want to see, because we know the NEPC vision is to make the world a marketplace for Nigerian export. What is the vision? Because within a short frame you started, you're already pushing hard. What is the vision you want to see for exporters?
I like to see Nigeria be a country that is well reckoned in terms of export. I like to see majority of our agricultural products, our solid minerals, to be everywhere in the world. And I also want to see, in line with the Renew Hope agenda, I want to see a lot of export. I want to come to Nigeria. I want to see Nigerians be major players in the global market. And finally, I'd like to see products being exported in shipload.
All right.
In shipload, all the products, not just in containers, in shipload, where you have industrial park. From the industrial park, you're shipping cocoa, you're shipping value-added products, not just...
Let's leave it there. If you can conceive it, they say you can achieve it.
You can achieve it, and in shipload is the word for me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Nonye Ayeni. She's the Executive Director and CEO, Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Wish you the very best. And we want to see you succeed. And we want to see Nigeria succeed, actually. Thank you so much, Comfort Amadu, our business correspondent here in NTA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we've been discussing beating the odds and trade standards. There's a lot we can beat. If you set your heart to it, Nigeria is a blessed nation. Let's think Nigeria, let's grow Nigeria, and let's sell Nigeria. It's Operation Double Your Exports. That's Platform. I'm Ruth Aguele.